My story starts in Iran, where I lived until I was 8 years old. My entire childhood, my family and I had looked up to America in hopes of moving there one day. I went to a private school, which was only meant for boys, and it was pretty strict. We'd wear a lot of uniforms, follow a lot of rules, and even match our hairstyles to what the school wanted. In fact, administrators would run their hands through your hair every day to make sure it was short enough. Now, or to make sure it was short enough. I remember taking English classes after class. My friends were confused on why these would be useful, and some even told me, Bardia, when are you ever going to use this? Isn't this a waste of your time? Now, a lot of people in Iran are taking English classes, but at the time, my 7-year-old friends, and frankly, 7-year-old me, couldn't understand why. And I have to admit, I didn't really use English outside of class much. After all, the national language for Iran was Farsi, not English. This left me continuously doubting myself and asking myself why I was learning this language. A language that I would probably never use. Now, although I can't say I used English outside of class much, what I can say is that I flexed it really, really hard in front of my friends. In reality, my flexes consisted of me mispronouncing my W's as V's, like, wow, that is so great, and making up words here and there to make me seem smart. But aside from that, it was difficult to explain why these classes would be useful. I knew that I wasn't going to use English outside of class. After all, my parents knew it was practically impossible to go to America. There wasn't a single American embassy in Iran, and the process was extremely difficult. But we knew that America was a path for a better life, education, and opportunity. The people in Iran were great, and many also shared our hopes and ambitions of moving to the West with so much technology and opportunity. But that's why our hopes were so small. Because with so much of a desire by so many people to move to a better land, the chances of actually having that opportunity were extremely slim. But we still had hope, however little it was. Because we knew that giving up hope would just be giving up. Now, one of my aunts also had hopes of moving to America. Every year, she would apply for this lottery. Now, this wasn't your average money lottery. It was a lottery where if you got in, you'd be able to come to America. If you were an Iranian and wanted to come here, this was your best bet. My parents never believed in it, so they never applied, but one year, as a joke, just for giggles, my aunt entered my family's name, along with her yearly entry to the lottery. And things continued on as normal until about a month later when we were all at home and my dad got a call from my aunt. She told us that we had just won the lottery. He thought it was a joke at first, and we told him, I can't do this right now, I'm busy, what do you want? But it was only after she said, no, I'm serious, that we realized what had just happened. When we found out, we were in shock. It took a few minutes to process. This would turn out to be the second best day of my life, knowing that our entire lives would be changed with this one phone call. And it gave us hope, a lot of it. So we continued the process in hopes of grasping the opportunity. The next step was to go to an interview, which would determine if we'd be allowed to immigrate to America. Now, this could make it, or it could break it. So we prepared like crazy, reading up on other people's interviews and perfecting our English skills to make sure things went perfect. I remember watching a lot of shows to try and hype myself up. I remember watching this one SpongeBob episode about Halloween and asking myself, why don't we do this? This seems like the coolest thing ever. We were so nervous for the interview that my dad even promised to buy me a cheeseburger from my favorite fast food chain if I did well during my part of the interview. I'll always remember the cold and intimidating interview room that we went to. I remember the voice of us being called into the room like it was yesterday. The guy offered to speak Farsi, but his Farsi was so bad that we just asked him to speak English at that point. And after a series of very, very personal questions, he told us that we were good to go. We'd been accepted to the United States. The next few months consisted of months of packing, planning, and praying that everything went well. This was an opportunity that could change our lives, and it was an opportunity that very few people received. All the postcards, the discussions, articles, and everything about America made it seem so spectacular. They made it seem out of the world. I remember the long drive to the airport at night, where we stopped in the middle to have a cup of tea and take in the moment. We had so much luggage that we went in 2 rounds, with me and my dad going in the first round, and me, my mom, and my grandparents and brother going in the second. Things felt unreal. This would be our last sunset in Iran until who knew when. I'll always remember the tears and the goodbyes at the airport and the 17-hour flight to the promised land. When we arrived at LAX, I remember feeling like the airport was a cage. Not because it was bad or anything, but because I desperately wanted to get an outside look. And I can confidently say that it was the best moment of my life when I stepped out of that airport onto American soil. We had just stepped into the land of the free, the land of opportunity, the land where you could become whoever you wanted. Oh, sweet capitalism. A better education, a better life, and so much more lay beneath our footsteps. But for some reason, what stuck with 8-year-old Bardia first were the colors. Oh, the colors. There was so much greenery, and there was a blue sky. Everything was so commercialized and plus-sized. There were huge buses with pictures on them, and there was graffiti on the sides of the highway. Iran had so many places with beautiful scenery, but this felt different. It was like sensory overload, where in a matter of a few minutes, your entire life had been flipped around. We had no family, all our friends were gone, and yet there was a glimmer of hope. I'd do anything to re-experience this feeling of naivete and innocence again. It was like being reborn into a new world and opening your eyes to see it for the very first time. Things seemed perfect. I knew that our first day would be us sitting on the apartment floor, not knowing where our journey would lead. I knew that I didn't know English. I knew that it was hard to make friends. And I knew that there would be no more Saturdays at my grandparents'. But it didn't matter. I was in America. The next few days packed so much more information in my brain than ever before. I was so excited to learn about Orange County culture, speak with my perfect English with everyone, and really learn about America and what it's all about. Apparently, instead of going to a bread bakery to buy some bread, you'd go to this massive supermarket that had everything. This website named YouTube was a thing. I could literally watch whatever I wanted. There was a pool and a business center right next to our house. How did things change so quickly? It seemed like life was entirely different just 2 days ago before our flight to LAX. Reflection is not only looking at the past, but it's looking into the present and seeing if I'm reflecting what I would like to be in the future. My parents transferred this knowledge on to me. I read this quote a while back that says, "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity." And this stuck with me because no matter how stupid something seems, or no matter how hopeless something seems, pushing on is so important. Because there's nothing worse than having so much hope and so many ambitions, just to lose it the moment before that opportunity comes your way. Our journey would have looked a lot different if we just stopped taking those English classes, or if we just gave up because things seemed hard or the process seemed impossible. I continue to remind myself of my immense luck every time I lose hope about the future, or every time I fail hideously at something. I remind myself that if my family moved to America when the odds seemed impossible, then maybe anything is possible. I remind myself that we've gotten so far, and giving up now would make the entire